Now they take over, first and 10, 34, stopping a Jacksonville drive, and Tua winds up. Intercepted! Picked off by Nevin Lawson!
And they will run it on 4th and 4. And Trubisky, and he has to recover back at the 46-yard line. Hardly.
From the 12, Jones keeps, gets a block, takes off, and he is gone. Trying to stay upright, and he trips.
He's early in the season, starting to get warmed up. Wentz faking the handoff, but under pressure. Barely gets it, it's intercepted.
Breaking news out of Florham Park, New Jersey, in Jets training camp. Geno Smith is out 6 to 10 weeks with a broken jaw. That as a result, as Todd Bowles has just said, of a sucker punch from one of his teammates.
22 yards, first down at the 48. And right to Nashawn Wright. Mariota throwing, tipped and intercepted. Picked off by Perryman. Denzel Perryman.
Mayfield with a lot of time, and it's intercepted. That's Darryl Roberts getting the ball out of the air.
Welcome back to the channel. My name is The Epic Plays, and today we are looking at Last Chance University NFL Quarterback Edition. What does that mean? These are the quarterbacks that are really on their last season to prove that they are good enough to be a starter in the NFL. I came up with around 9 or 10 today to see who has it, who can make it on this last chance, and who will be relegated to being a backup quarterback for the rest of their career. Starting off the list, we have the former 5th overall pick from a couple drafts ago, Tua Tagovailoa. Now, his rookie season wasn't that great. His second season seemed to be alright, but not exactly what you were expecting from the 5th overall pick. Tua's stats last year, he had less than 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. He's certainly been struggling, and it hasn't been helped by the organization. Alright, infighting with Brian Flores and the ownership, Stephen Ross. Now they have lost a pick to help support him, and at least they have a new coach in Tyreek Hill, but when you're looking at the stats of it, you know, the team doesn't want him. There's rumors that they wanted Tom Brady. There's rumors that they wanted Deshaun Watson. So now, looking at it, it looks like this is make or break for Tua, and I think that it is a break. I don't think Tua will have a good enough season to save his job here. I think actually, as the team builds and grows, they could be looking at Jimmy Garoppolo to try and help make a playoff push in this tight AFC. I don't see Tua even making the end of the year, but that is just my opinion here. Next up is Mitch Trubisky, a guy very much on his last chance, and I don't even know if he's getting much of a chance this year. He spent his first 4 years with the Chicago Bears playing pedestrian football, 10,000 yards, 64 touchdowns, and 38 interceptions, but again, he does have a winning record over there, so there is that. Next year, he ended up going to the Buffalo Bills, being a backup for Josh Allen and seeing minimal play, 43 yards and a pick with no touchdowns. This year, he was signed by the Pittsburgh Steelers and is competing for that starting spot with Kenny Pickett. Looks like he should be able to get at least the first 1 or 2 games to prove that he can be a decent quarterback. However, if Kenny Pickett comes in, I doubt Kenny Pickett is going back out for Mitch Trubisky. He is very much acting as a bridge quarterback here. With an excellent season, I'm sure he could find a spot for the Seattle Seahawks or another team that's going to be quarterback needy next year, or expected to be, and he could end up being a starter again, but he has to play lights out football here, a perfect season to even be considered to be a starter next year. Most people have already delegated him as a career backup, bridge type quarterback. This year is so make or break. He will either be making hundreds of thousands of dollars as a backup or potentially tens of millions as a starter if he can have an excellent year here, like 4,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, 7 picks. That kind of year will make him tens of millions. But I don't know if he's even going to start week 1. Maybe he's already used up his last chance, but for his sake, hopefully he starts at least the first 1 or 2 games for the Steelers. And in this make or break year for Mitchell Trubisky, I think it is a break. I do not see him moving on to another team to be a starter. I think he just plays 1 or 2 games, is cut again by the Steelers, and goes to a different team to either be a bridge quarterback or just a backup entirely. And as I'm editing the video, the Steelers have just announced that Mitchell Trubisky will be the captain for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. So I think he will legitimately get a shot. However, I still maintain that it is a break year for him. I do not think that this is the year that everyone's like, holy shit, Mitchell Trubisky was really worth that pick and it was the Bears' fault all along. No, the Bears should have drafted Mahomes. Trubisky is a backup quarterback. However, he looks like he's getting a real shot here, so we'll see. Moving on, we have Carson Wentz, someone who I think is probably the best quarterback on this entire list that I've created for you today. Over his career, he has 20,000 yards, 140 touchdowns, and 57 interceptions. Now, Carson Wentz, spending his first 5 years in Philadelphia, almost winning the MVP that one year, ends up getting cut for Jalen Hurts, goes to Indianapolis, where he's just yet another cog in that quarterback carousel over there. But honestly, he had a pretty good season, 3,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 7 picks. Unfortunately, though, we all know that he completely shit the bed in the final game against the Jaguars, where it was win and you're in the playoffs, lose and you are out. Against the worst team in the league, you have to win that game, and Carson Wentz played abysmal. He is the reason that they lost that game. Colts management thought that it was unacceptable, which I certainly understand, and they ended up cutting him, going for someone else. Now, Carson Wentz with the Commanders this year, I think he has a real shot. He's in a pretty weak division, if we're being honest about it. Maybe the weakest in football. He has Terry McLaurin, Ron Rivera, good wide receiver, a good coach. I think he's being built around. I think they're building the offense for him. And Carson Wentz, I think this is an absolute make of a year. He does not have a perfect system around him. He has a pretty shitty owner, for being honest. But I think he can overcome it. I think this is the year that he proves he is a legit NFL starter, at least top 20. And he ends up staying with the Commanders for at least 2 or 3 more years, getting a re-up and getting a couple of $1 million out of the whole thing. I wish him the best, and I think this is the year that he can finally get that monkey off his back. Commanders might even win 9 games with him, who knows? Baker Mayfield will be the starting quarterback and the franchise quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. Baker Mayfield had a very rough year. He had a left shoulder injury, non-throwing shoulder injury, which can completely mess up one's motion. That's why his completion percentage went down. That's why the touchdowns went down, and that's why the interceptions went up. This year, under a new system with Matt Rule and Christian McCaffrey, who, if he can stay healthy, is an absolutely top-tier running back. And what is McCaffrey going to do for Baker Mayfield? Relieve some of that pressure. Baker Mayfield's best year, the year where they beat the Steelers in the playoffs, was full of Nick Chubb getting big chunks and Kareem Hunt just running the ball. It was a ground and pound offense, and I think that's what the Carolina Panthers need to sneak into the wild card spot in this terrible, terrible NFC we're seeing this year. With that, I think the Panthers are a playoff team. McCaffrey stays healthy, Baker Mayfield throws to Robbie Anderson, and the Panthers are going to sneak in as a wildcard seed, maybe the 6th or 7th seed, and this is the year that people finally give Baker Mayfield the respect that he deserves. And now for Daniel Jones, I'm going to hand it off to a local Giants fan, 5 Points Vids, to see what he thinks about the whole Daniel Jones situation in New York.
Daniel Jones. It's hard to believe we've arrived at the end of his rookie deal, and there are still more questions than answers. On one hand, he hasn't won a thing. On the other hand, when he isn't out there, the Giants are somehow worse. And that all leads to this season, essentially a put up or shut up season. Like, what last year was. Honestly, the only way Jones keeps his job is if the Giants make the playoffs, and this roster is 2 years away from that, maybe 3. Daboll and Shane clearly are there to clean up messes, and Jones will likely be the first casualty of that. Sometimes you need a fresh start with your guy, and it's not like Daniel Jones has shown he's irreplaceable. You've seen QBs, even good QBs, move on to other cities and have success, and you've also seen the teams that they left also have success. So, honestly, this is probably the last year Jones suits up in New York. A wise man once said, "All mediocre things must come to an end." Shout out to Bench Warmer Brew.
Very special thank you to 5 Points Vids, and if you want, you can buy Bench Warmer Brew. I'll put it in the link in the description. It's his own coffee company. Marcus Mariota is absolutely a very good quarterback and a starting caliber quarterback, at least in my opinion, but the Atlanta Falcons are going to absolutely fuck him this year. They have no roster. It is Kyle Pitts and Kyle Pitts. That's the entire Atlanta Falcons roster. So Marcus Mariota is a very good quarterback. I think he deserves to be a starter in this league. I think he could even be a top 20 quarterback. I think he's better than a good chunk of the starters, but he's not getting a fair shot here. He's on a team that is blatantly tanking and will be cut after the year. And to make a break here, it is going to be break because he's just not good enough. I don't know if anyone's good enough to lead the Falcons to the Super Bowl this year, if I'm being honest with you. I think that hopefully, instead of having a one-and-done year with the Falcons, he has a good year. They realize that he's not the reason they're losing, and they end up keeping him for a couple more years and drafting someone to support Marcus Mariota. Hopefully that's what happens. I think that Marcus Mariota is going to play 1 year and then just get cut by the Falcons. Moving on, we have who I believe is the absolute worst quarterback on this entire list, and that is Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I don't even know if you can call this a last chance because he is very much considered a backup quarterback by most people in the league and just kind of lucked his way into starting for the Seattle Seahawks because, what are they going to do? Run the Wildcat? Trade for Gardner Minshew? There isn't many great options for Seattle this year. He did start 2 years for the Jets, putting up very abysmal numbers. His career stats are just under 7,000 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 37 interceptions. He did look all right in passing for a couple games for the Seattle Seahawks, especially against the Steelers. He looked okay, but I think that this is the 32nd out of 32 starting quarterbacks. Whether it's Geno Smith or Drew Lock, I think Seattle is stuck with the 32nd best starting quarterback in the league, and no matter what happens here, I think Geno Smith will be proven to be a backup quarterback, and somehow he lucked his way into a starting gig again 1 year in 2022. This is a tanking / bridge quarterback kind of guy, not someone you build a franchise around, not someone you even consider building a franchise around. Hell, I think half the teams in the league have a better backup than Seattle has a starter. This is absolutely a break prediction for me. I do not think that Geno Smith has much of a chance, nor do the Seattle Seahawks, but they are my team, so I might be a little too cynical on them. My beloved team has gotten rid of the best quarterback they've ever fucking seen in Russell Wilson. And who do we get? Drew Lock. Okay, fine. He's got potential. We got 2 first-round picks out of it. Fine. But you're telling me this motherfucker can't beat out Geno Smith in a fucking quarterback? Geno fucking Smith?